It began on an ordinary night in the autumn of 1972, when a man named Daniel, a quiet schoolteacher from rural Vermont, went to bed expecting nothing more than the usual drift into dreams. His life was simple, marked by predictable routines and unremarkable days. He had never studied mysticism, never sought visions, never even kept a dream journal. Yet what happened that night would dismantle the foundation of his understanding of reality. He remembered lying on his side, the steady hum of the heater filling the room, his mind slipping into that gentle in-between place where thoughts blur and shapes form in the dark. But instead of fading into unconsciousness, he felt a sudden and undeniable shift, as if his body remained in bed while some other part of him stepped away. At first, he thought he was dreaming. He could see his bedroom clearly, every familiar detail intact. The only difference was that the air itself seemed alive, shimmering faintly with a light that had no source. When he glanced toward his bed, the shock hit him. His own body was there, perfectly still, chest rising and falling in slow rhythm. The realization sent a ripple through him, a strange combination of awe and disquiet. He wasn't in a dream, he was outside of himself, fully aware, with a clarity that made waking life seem dull in comparison. Drawn by a pull he could not explain, Daniel drifted through the walls of his home, as if they were no more solid than fog. The cold autumn night outside carried no bite. Instead, there was an electric softness to the air. He rose higher, the ground falling away, until the town lay beneath him like a toy village. But then something changed. A current seemed to catch him, and in an instant, he was somewhere else entirely, a vast, open hall lined with shelves that reached higher than he could see, filled with books and scrolls that radiated a quiet hum. The space felt ancient, older than human memory, yet familiar in a way that defied logic. He did not read with his eyes. The moment his attention landed on a volume, its contents poured into him in a rush, histories, lives, events that stretched beyond the boundaries of his own experience. He saw details of his grandmother's childhood he had never been told, moments from the life of a friend hundreds of miles away, even the layout of a library in a city he had never visited. When he woke hours later, back in his bed, the images and information remained as vivid as if they had been written in his mind. Weeks later, on a trip to Boston, he wandered into a library he had never seen before, and froze. It was exactly as he had witnessed it in that other place, down to the arrangement of the tables and the titles on the nearest shelf. Daniel's story is not unique. Accounts like his appear in private diaries, hidden archives, and whispered conversations between those who have touched the edge of something vast and unexplainable. They reveal an unsettling truth, that sleep is not merely a passive state of rest, but a passageway into territories where the boundaries of the self are no longer confined by flesh and bone. These are places where the mind is not bound by the slow pace of language, where learning happens in floods, and where the ordinary rules of space and time bend into shapes the waking world refuses to acknowledge. What makes these accounts so compelling is not just the vividness of the experiences, but the verifiable knowledge that sometimes returns with them. People awaken knowing languages they have never studied, recalling details of distant places they later confirm. It suggests that when the body sleeps, consciousness does not simply idle in dreams of the subconscious. Instead, it travels, observes, learns, and sometimes brings back fragments of the places it has been. Most people move through sleep without ever realizing this. The memory fades upon waking, eroded by the mind's instinct to label such journeys as just dreams. Yet for those who slip through the cracks of forgetfulness, the experience can be both exhilarating and destabilizing. It forces a re-evaluation of everything they thought they knew about themselves, about death, about the very nature of reality. If you can exist and think and learn outside your body while it sleeps, then what exactly are you? And if you can travel without moving, then where exactly have you been all your life? Ancient traditions have whispered of this for centuries. The Egyptians spoke of the Ba, the soul bird that left the body at night. The Vedic scriptures describe the Swapna state, a realm between waking and deep sleep where the self can roam freely. Even in folk traditions, there are stories of the night traveler, those who, knowingly or unknowingly, leave the physical behind to walk in worlds unseen. In every culture, the message is the same. Sleep is not the end of awareness, it is the loosening of the tether. Yet in the modern world, this knowledge has been reduced to superstition or dismissed as the byproduct of imagination, and perhaps this is deliberate. For if you knew that a third of your life is spent in a state where you are untethered from the physical, able to explore and remember, how differently would you treat your nights? What would you seek? What would you dare to ask? There are those who benefit from keeping this truth obscured, from ensuring that the masses believe their dreams are nothing more than mind noise. Awareness leads to curiosity, and curiosity leads to discovery, and discovery, in the wrong hands, can shift power. Daniel never returned to the Hall of Books in quite the same way, though he reported flashes of it in later dreams. He became quiet about the experience, sharing it only with a few close friends who wouldn't mock him. But it changed him. He approached life differently, with the knowing that the walls of waking reality were thin, that knowledge existed just beyond the edges of perception, and that perhaps the truest part of himself was not bound to the body he saw in the mirror. And that is the unsettling truth you are left with. Tonight, when you lay your head down and your body grows still, you may think you are simply drifting into unconsciousness. But your consciousness has other plans. Somewhere beyond the veil, in a place your waking mind cannot easily follow, the traveler in you will rise. Whether you remember where it goes is another matter entirely. There is a moment each night when the world you know begins to dissolve, yet you are not fully gone from it. Your body grows heavy, your breath slows, and your thoughts loosen their grip on structure, drifting into strange, fluid patterns. This is the hypnagogic state, a fleeting threshold between wakefulness and sleep, and though most people pass through it unconsciously, it is one of the most mysterious and powerful gateways the human experience offers. Ancient mystics, shamans, and seers understood that this narrow passage was not simply a prelude to dreaming. It was an entryway to other realms, a place where the borders between physical and non-physical reality grew thin enough for the soul to slip through. In this fragile space, the mind becomes untethered from the rigid logic of waking life. Images appear without warning, flashes of faces you've never met, landscapes you've never walked, symbols that feel charged with meaning even if you don't yet understand them. Sounds may rise from nowhere, voices speaking in languages you do not consciously know, music that vibrates in a way no earthly instrument could produce. For most, these impressions fade quickly, like mist under the sun, because we have been taught to dismiss them as random fragments of a brain shutting down for the night. But the ancients saw them differently. They saw them as signals, invitations, to step beyond the confines of ordinary perception. The hypnagogic state is not just about what you see or hear, but what you feel. There is a shift in the texture of awareness itself. Time seems to loosen, and in that loosening, past and future can blend into a single moment. Your sense of self begins to stretch beyond the boundaries of your skin, as if you are expanding into the very air around you. It is in this state that many people report spontaneous sensations of floating, spinning, or even separating from their body entirely. What science calls the onset of sleep, mystics recognized as the opening of a door. Ancient traditions developed practices to linger in this state without crossing fully into unconsciousness. Egyptian initiates trained themselves to hover here, learning to stabilize their awareness long enough to slip into the hidden worlds they called the duat. In Vedic teachings, yogis would use breathing techniques and mantras to hold themselves at the edge of sleep, entering the realm between waking and dreaming as a way to commune with higher beings. Indigenous shamans in the Americas taught apprentices to listen deeply during this time, as it was believed that the spirits of ancestors and guides spoke most clearly when the mind was soft, but not yet asleep. One reason this state was so highly valued is that it bypasses the filters of the conscious mind. In your waking life, information from other dimensions, your higher self, or the collective field of human thought, must pass through the dense web of your beliefs, fears, and expectations. Most of it is blocked or distorted, but in the hypnagogic state, those filters weaken. You become more receptive to impressions that your waking mind would normally reject. This is why some of the greatest inventions, works of art, and profound spiritual revelations have emerged from moments of drifting between wake and sleep. The mind in this state is fluid enough to receive inspiration in its purest form. Mystics also spoke of the veil that exists here, a shimmering boundary of energy that separates the physical world from subtler planes. In waking life, this veil is dense, keeping your focus locked on the material world. In deep sleep, you pass fully beyond it without awareness. But in this in-between state, the veil is thin enough to perceive both sides. You might still hear the hum of a car outside your window, while also catching the faint glow of a place that is not of this earth. It is here, in this dual awareness, that you can learn to navigate consciously between realms. For those who have trained themselves to enter the hypnagogic state with intention, it becomes a launch point for extraordinary experiences. Lucid dreams often begin here, with the sleeper recognizing they are slipping into a dream and taking control of the unfolding reality. Out-of-body journeys can also be initiated from this threshold, as the mind learns to guide the consciousness beyond the limits of the body while the physical form rests. This is why so many mystical traditions considered sleep not as an absence of awareness, but as an opportunity to explore the deeper architecture of reality. Yet, despite its beauty and potential, this state can also be disorienting or even frightening. The breakdown of familiar reality can trigger sensations of falling, paralysis, or strange vibrations that unsettle the unprepared. In some traditions, these sensations were interpreted as guardians of the threshold, forces that tested the traveler's readiness to cross. The ancients advised grounding and protection before entering this space intentionally, using prayer, ritual, or symbols to ensure that only beneficial encounters would occur. Without this preparation, the openness of the hypnagogic state could leave one vulnerable to energies and influences from lower vibrational realms. The fleeting nature of this state is part of what makes it so precious. Most people enter it for only a few seconds before sliding into sleep, and those seconds are often lost to memory. But with practice, you can learn to extend this threshold, exploring its landscapes with clarity. This is not merely an act of curiosity. The impressions and messages received here can transform the way you live when you wake. They can offer guidance on decisions, bring healing to emotional wounds, and reconnect you with aspects of your soul you have long forgotten. In modern life, where exhaustion often pushes people into unconsciousness the moment their head touches the pillow, this doorway remains largely unused, but the doorway has not closed. It waits for those who approach it with awareness, patience, and a willingness to see beyond the surface of things. Every night, without fail, you approach the veil between waking and dreaming. Whether you drift past it unaware or pause to step through is a choice, one that could alter not just your sleep, but your entire understanding of reality itself. Because in that thin, luminous space, you are neither fully here nor entirely elsewhere. You are something more, a traveler standing at the border of worlds, holding the key to mysteries that have been calling to you since the moment you first closed your eyes. And the question that has echoed through every ancient school, every mystical practice, still waits for you there. Will you simply sleep, or will you remember where you truly go when you dream? When you fall into the depths of sleep, something remarkable begins to happen, something so ordinary in its occurrence, yet so extraordinary in its nature, that most people never even think to question it. Your body remains on the bed, its breathing slow, its muscles relaxed, its senses turned inward. But the you that thinks, perceives, and feels does not stay put. The connection between body and consciousness, so tightly knit during waking hours, begins to loosen. What remains behind is the shell, the vessel. What moves outward is the essence, the unshackled self. It is as if the weight of the body, with its limitations and demands, finally loosens its grip, and you are free to move in ways that defy physical law. This detachment is not abrupt. It begins with subtle sensations, often unnoticed by the average sleeper. There is a gentle shift in perception, a sense of floating or expanding, as though the edges of your body have dissolved. In this state, you are neither fully in your body nor fully outside it. You exist in a liminal space, 1 foot in the physical world, 1 foot in the vast expanse beyond. Mystical traditions have long described this moment as the loosening of the silver cord, an energetic tether that links the soul to the flesh. The cord stretches but never snaps unless death occurs. allowing consciousness to explore while still anchored to its earthly home. Cultures separated by oceans and centuries have recognized this nightly journey. The shamans of Siberia speak of traveling in spirit form to gather wisdom and healing for their communities. Tibetan monks describe the dream body, a subtle form that awakens when the physical rests, enabling them to visit teachers in distant monasteries or traverse luminous landscapes not bound by earth. Indigenous tribes in the Americas speak of the spirit walk, a nightly adventure where hunters cross into the dream time to seek guidance from ancestors and animal allies. In each case, sleep is not viewed as a void, but as an active state of exploration, learning, and connection. Modern accounts often arrive from those who have stumbled into the experience without seeking it. A person wakes in the middle of the night to find themselves looking down at their sleeping form, heart pounding with the shock of seeing their own body from above. They may drift through their home, pass through walls as easily as air, or find themselves in strange, vivid environments that feel more real than waking life. Some travel to familiar places in the physical world and later confirm details they could not have known. Others encounter people or beings who impart messages, often cryptic but deeply personal, which later reveal layers of meaning. Science has brushed against this phenomenon in studies of out-of-body experiences, often categorizing it as a neurological anomaly or a quirk of perception. Yet the consistency of reports across cultures and eras challenges the idea that it is merely an illusion. There is a quality to these accounts, the clarity of thought, the verifiable information brought back, the emotional impact that resists easy dismissal. To the one who experiences it, the sensation of moving independently from the body is undeniable. They are not imagining it, they are living it. One of the most striking aspects of this detachment is the sudden expansion of awareness. The senses shift into a mode unbound by physical organs. Sight is not dependent on eyes. You can perceive in all directions at once. Hearing is not limited by air vibrations entering ears. You receive impressions directly, as if the environment itself is communicating with you. Movement is instantaneous. The moment you think of a place or person, you are there, without the need for steps or vehicles. This freedom is intoxicating, but it can also be disorienting for those unprepared for such liberation. In the unshackled state, space is not the same as in waking life. You might pass through the rooms of your home and find them subtly altered, filled with an atmosphere of light or shadow that reflects your inner state. You might find yourself in landscapes you do not recognize, vast deserts under violet skies, cities of crystal, forests where the trees hum with music. Some of these realms seem to exist within layers of reality parallel to our own, overlapping but invisible during the day. Others feel as though they belong to entirely different dimensions, accessible only when consciousness slips free of its physical anchor. Not all journeys in this state are luminous or comforting. The freedom to travel also exposes the traveler to places and presences that can stir fear. Some describe entering zones of heaviness or encountering entities whose intentions are unclear. This is why many traditions teach protective practices before sleep, prayers, rituals, or visualizations to strengthen the energy field and maintain awareness during travel. Without preparation, the unshackled self can be swept along currents it does not understand, returning with fragments of uneasy dreams or a lingering sense of unrest. Yet even with its risks, this nightly detachment is a gift. It offers a perspective impossible to gain while fully embodied. It reminds you that you are not solely your flesh, not solely bound to this one location or this one life. The experiences you have in this state can shift your understanding of who and what you are. They can dissolve the fear of death, for you come to know through direct experience that your awareness continues without the body. They can awaken a sense of purpose, as you realize there are realms to explore, lessons to learn, and connections to make that reach far beyond the daylight hours. Most people will never consciously experience the unshackled self, not because it does not happen, but because they forget. The return to the body upon waking can be jarring, and the rational mind is quick to dismiss anything it cannot explain. Yet with practice, through meditation, lucid dreaming, or simply setting the intention before sleep, you can begin to notice the moments of separation. You may feel the lightness before slipping into deep rest, the gentle tug as the cord stretches, the rush of returning as morning comes. This detachment during sleep is not a rare anomaly. It is the natural rhythm of consciousness, a nightly reminder that your existence is far greater than what you see in the mirror. Every time you close your eyes and drift into that other state, you are stepping into the ancient stream of travelers who have walked between worlds. The unshackled self is not bound by walls or clocks. It is the part of you that has always known freedom, and it waits patiently each night for the moment when the body loosens its hold, and you remember, if only for a heartbeat, what it feels like to truly fly. When your eyes close and your body surrenders to the stillness of sleep, your awareness is not trapped inside the silent theater of your mind. It drifts outward, slipping into a vast, uncharted territory that exists parallel to the physical world, a place mystics have long called the astral plane. This is not some vague, hazy dreamscape born solely of imagination. It is a living, layered reality that countless seekers have explored and returned from with descriptions so consistent across cultures and centuries that to dismiss it entirely would be to ignore one of humanity's most enduring truths. When you sleep, you are not merely resting, you are traveling, and the roads you travel are older than the earth itself. The astral plane is not one singular location. It is a series of interwoven layers, each with its own vibrational frequency, its own rules, and its own inhabitants. Think of it like a vast ocean, with different depths. At the shallowest level, closest to waking reality, the astral world mirrors the physical one. Here, streets, buildings, and familiar landscapes appear almost as they do in daylight, but with subtle distortions, colors too vivid, shadows that move on their own, and a strange luminosity to even the most mundane objects. Many people who experience out-of-body states for the first time find themselves wandering through this familiar, yet dreamlike version of their surroundings. It is often here that you sense the curious overlap between the dream world and a dimension that exists entirely apart from your imagination. Beneath this surface level lies a realm where landscapes shift in ways that defy the logic of the waking mind. Mountains might rise from flat plains in the blink of an eye. Rivers might flow upward into the sky. Cities made of crystal or light stretch into horizons that seem endless. This middle astral is the territory most travelers recall as the classic dream realm, fluid, mutable, and shaped both by your own thoughts and the collective thoughts of countless other beings. Here, you can encounter scenes that feel like symbolic plays staged for your benefit, as if the realm itself is trying to teach or reveal something to you. Guides and entities are often encountered here, some appearing human, others taking on forms so strange and archetypal that they seem to speak directly to the deepest layers of your psyche. As you move deeper, the plane becomes increasingly abstract and overwhelming to ordinary perception. The lower layers hum with dense, heavy energies. In these places, fear and shadow take form, often reflecting unresolved aspects of the traveler's own mind. They are not hells in the religious sense, but they can feel oppressive, realms of distortion where beings are locked into loops of pain, craving, or confusion. Those who wander here without preparation often find themselves trapped in unsettling scenarios, unsure how to navigate or leave. Yet even these depths serve a purpose. They act as purgative zones, forcing you to confront the parts of yourself that remain unhealed. Those who have learned to enter with awareness and protection can pass through safely, retrieving wisdom and returning stronger. Far above the middle layers are realms so refined in vibration that language falters in trying to describe them. Here, form gives way to light and sound. You may perceive yourself as a sphere of consciousness, drifting in vast, luminous expanses where communication happens in pulses of knowing rather than words. The sensation is one of profound freedom, no body, no weight, no boundary between you and the currents of the universe. These higher astral levels are often described as places of healing, where the very energy of the realm recalibrates you. It is here that travelers report meeting beings of extraordinary presence, radiant intelligences, who emanate unconditional love, who seem to have watched over your journey across lifetimes. Encounters here are remembered not in detail, but in feeling, an overwhelming sense of peace, belonging, and clarity that lingers long after waking. These levels are not strictly linear. Movement in the astral is not like climbing stairs or swimming downward. It is dictated by your vibrational state, your emotional tone, mental focus, and spiritual readiness. Fear will pull you toward heavier realms. Love, curiosity, and openness will lift you toward the lighter ones. This is why traditions that practiced astral exploration placed so much emphasis on inner preparation before travel. You do not simply decide to go to the highest realms, you must become the kind of consciousness that resonates there. The astral highways themselves are curious phenomena. Travelers often describe them as tunnels, corridors of light, or pathways made of shifting geometry that seem to connect vastly different zones of the plane. In some cases, they appear as literal roads or bridges, leading from one surreal landscape to another. In others, they are pure currents of energy, streams you can step into that carry you across vast distances instantly. Some cultures saw these highways as sacred routes mapped by ancient beings. Others considered them to be part of the natural structure of the universe, like the ley lines of the physical world. To step into one is to feel yourself moving faster than thought, propelled by a current that knows exactly where it is taking you. While the astral plane is infinite in its scope, it is also deeply personal. What you encounter there is often filtered through your own consciousness. A guide may appear in a form you will trust. A lesson may unfold as a story drawn from your own memories. Even the landscapes may shift to reflect the state of your mind in that moment. Yet at the same time, you can meet other travelers whose experiences confirm the existence of shared spaces, independent of individual imagination. This strange blend of personal and collective reality is one of the plane's enduring mysteries. The most experienced travelers know that the astral is not a place to wander aimlessly. Just as you would not walk into an unfamiliar city without a map, the astral requires orientation and awareness. There are currents that can sweep you into places you are not ready for, beings whose intentions are not benevolent, and zones so intoxicating you may forget your reason for traveling. But there is also beauty beyond comprehension, realms where music becomes visible, where thought manifests instantly, where the boundaries between you and the stars dissolve. When you wake in the morning, the memories of these travels often fade, leaving only fragments, a face, a color, a sensation of flying. But somewhere in you, the journey is remembered. The impressions are stored in the deeper mind, influencing your intuition, your creativity, and the strange knowing that sometimes comes to you without explanation. This is why, even without conscious recall, you can awaken from a night's sleep feeling inexplicably lighter, wiser, or more connected to something vast. Every night, you enter the astral highways, whether you know it or not. You may wander only the shallowest levels, tangled in dreams shaped by your own mind. Or you may be drawn into luminous realms where your soul remembers its origin. The question is not whether you travel, it is whether you will learn to travel with awareness. Because once you begin to navigate these roads with intention, the astral ceases to be a mystery you stumble into. It becomes a map, a training ground, and a meeting place with the parts of reality you have always sensed were there, waiting for you beyond the veil. There are nights when your dreams feel different, deeper, clearer, more real than the day itself. These are not the scattered fragments of your subconscious rearranging daily memories, but journeys into a place older than the world you wake into each morning. This place is not made of stone or brick, yet it feels solid beneath you. It has no physical location, yet it has corridors, halls, and archives beyond imagining. Mystics, sages, and seers have whispered of it for centuries, calling it the Library of the Soul, the Book of Life, the Hall of Records. Today, some know it as the Akashic Records, a vast, eternal repository containing the record of every thought, word, action, and event that has ever occurred or ever will. You may think such a place exists only in metaphor, but those who have been there describe it with the same precision they might recall a childhood home. They speak of vast halls stretching into infinity, shelves stacked with glowing tomes or scrolls, each one humming with an energy that feels both intimate and immense. Others describe it not as books, but as streams of light, threads of living memory woven together in a tapestry that can be touched, entered, and experienced directly. However it appears, one truth remains constant. In certain states of consciousness, especially during sleep, the soul can enter these records and retrieve information far beyond the scope of waking awareness. This crossing does not happen in every dream. It is most often triggered during states of deep, unbroken rest, when the mind has fully released its grip on the physical senses. In that state, the noise of ordinary thought fades, and something within you begins to move toward the source of all memory. The transition is rarely noticed. You simply find yourself in an environment unlike any dream you've known. It may begin as a doorway, a flight of steps, or a sudden shift into a space where the air feels alive with meaning. You are not a passive observer here. You are an active participant, drawn toward the very threads of your own existence. In this place, you can call up the story of a life you've lived before, not as a vague impression but with the immediacy of reliving it. You might witness a scene from centuries ago and feel the emotions as though they were happening now. You might see choices you made in other bodies, with other names, and understand how they echo into the life you are living today. Some who enter find themselves shown events from the future, not as fixed destinies, but as probable outcomes shaped by present choices. Others are given answers to questions they have long carried, not through words, but through a sudden download of knowing, a clarity that arrives whole and complete. When you return from such a crossing, the information often lingers not as a direct memory but as intuition. You may wake with a certainty about a decision, an inexplicable understanding of a problem, or a sudden shift in perspective. You might feel drawn to a place you've never visited, or a skill you've never learned, only to discover later that it was once part of your soul's story. This is the way the records work. The conscious mind may not recall the full journey, but the soul retains it, weaving its wisdom into your waking life. Cultures around the world have described this phenomenon in their own languages and symbols. In ancient Egypt, priests spoke of the tables of destiny, cosmic records inscribed by divine hands that contained the fate of all beings. Hindu philosophy describes the Akasha as the subtle ether that holds the vibrations of every event in the universe. In Jewish mysticism, the concept of the heavenly book in which all deeds are written reflects the same truth. These are not separate myths but different windows into the same reality, preserved through time so that those ready to hear might recognize the call. Accessing the Akashic records during sleep is not without its challenges. The depth of information can overwhelm the unprepared traveler, leading to dreams so vivid and strange that they are dismissed upon waking. The conscious mind, limited by its need for linear time and logical sequence, struggles to translate the multidimensional nature of what is experienced. This is why much of the knowledge gained there arrives as symbols, metaphors, or feelings, rather than exact details. Yet, with practice, a person can learn to carry more of the clarity back with them, to remember, not just feel. Some people enter the records intentionally, using meditative practices before sleep to set the destination. They visualize walking toward a great library, or calling upon a guide to meet them at the threshold. Others arrive unexpectedly, drawn there by the pull of a question or a turning point in their life's path. In both cases, the crossing leaves a mark. Even if the conscious mind cannot recall the journey, the soul is changed by what it has seen. Choices begin to align with a deeper wisdom, synchronicities appear more often, and a subtle but steady confidence emerges in navigating life. There are also moments when the records offer something unexpected, healing. By showing you the root cause of a recurring fear, a toxic relationship pattern, or a limiting belief, they allow you to understand it not just intellectually, but energetically. This understanding can dissolve patterns that might have taken years of waking effort to untangle. It is as if the records do not merely hold your history, they hold the keys to transforming it. Why is this knowledge not widely discussed? Perhaps because those who hold power in the material world have little interest in people realizing they have access to a limitless, eternal source of truth. A person who knows how to seek wisdom directly from the records is far harder to manipulate. They no longer need intermediaries to interpret their path. They become their own authority, grounded in the knowledge of countless lifetimes and guided by the vast intelligence of the universe itself. The Akashic crossing during sleep is not a rare gift reserved for mystics, it is a birthright. Every soul carries the ability to step into this library, to touch the threads of its own eternal story, and to bring that light back into the waking world. The only barriers are belief and awareness. Tonight, as your body grows still and your thoughts begin to drift, consider the possibility that you are not simply going to rest. You may be on your way to a place where all that you are and all that you have ever been waits to greet you, a place where every answer you have ever sought already exists, written in the silent language of the soul. And, when you return, you may find that the wisdom you need has already been placed gently into your hands, waiting for you to notice. There are dreams that feel random, like scattered fragments of your daily life stitched together without logic, and then there are dreams that carry a weight, a precision, that lingers with you long after waking. These are not the accidental byproducts of a restless mind. They are crafted. Behind them, there is intention, design, and a presence that does not belong solely to you. The ancient world understood what modern life has largely forgotten, that dreams can be constructed by intelligences beyond the physical, entities whose role is to guide, teach, and heal you through the architecture of the dream world. They are the dream architects, and whether or not you have recognized them, you have already stepped into their work many times. In the quiet hours of sleep, when your consciousness has unhooked itself from the dense demands of waking life, you are more open than you realize. The gates of perception are not guarded by skepticism, logic, or the need for immediate survival. This openness allows non-physical intelligences to step forward and shape the very fabric of your dream environment. They do not simply drop symbols into your mind, they build entire worlds around you, tailored to your current state of growth. A winding staircase may appear not because your brain is recycling a memory of an old building, but because a guide has chosen it as a metaphor for your present spiritual climb. A stranger offering you an object may not be a meaningless character, they may be a being using form to communicate a gift of energy or insight. Some of these architects are what you might think of as personal guides, intelligences that have walked with your soul for lifetimes, watching, nudging, and orchestrating moments of awakening. They know your patterns, your wounds, your strengths, and the exact experiences you need to trigger the next step in your evolution. Their work is subtle. They may place you in a dream scenario that mirrors a challenge in your waking life, but with heightened clarity, so that you see what you could not see in daylight. They may orchestrate a symbolic death and rebirth sequence, not to frighten you, but to prepare you for a real transformation that is about to unfold. Others are specialists. There are healers who weave dreams designed to restore balance to your energy field. In such dreams, you may find yourself lying in a sunlit meadow while unseen hands adjust the very currents of your being. You may wake feeling lighter, without knowing that the dream was the setting for an actual healing session conducted on a non-physical level. There are also initiators, beings who create dream landscapes as training grounds. You might face impossible puzzles, tests of courage, or encounters with your deepest fears. These are not meant as punishment, but as rites of passage. By meeting the challenge in the dream state, you strengthen your soul's capacity to meet it in waking life. The architecture of these dreams often follows a different logic than your own subconscious. While your personal dreams may blur and shift at random, constructed dreams often carry a strange cohesion. You may notice an atmosphere of significance, as if every detail matters. The lighting, the placement of objects, the sequence of events, all feel deliberate. And often, even when the imagery is fantastical, the emotional impact is profound and precise. This is one way to sense when you have stepped into a crafted space rather than a purely self-generated one. The dream architects do not operate in isolation from you. Your own state of receptivity determines how clearly you can engage with their work. If your mind is crowded with noise, if your emotional state is chaotic, their designs may reach you only in fragments. But when you approach sleep with intention, when you quiet your mind, set a question, or hold a focus before drifting off, you signal your readiness to participate in the co-creation of the dream. The architects respond to this readiness, often with surprising speed. A single night can deliver the answer to a question you have carried for months, but in a form so wrapped in symbol that you must sit with it, turn it over, and allow its meaning to unfold gradually. In some cases, these guides reveal themselves directly. They may appear in human form, as a teacher, a friend, or a stranger whose eyes hold a depth that feels ancient. They may also take forms that defy human categories, beings of light, shifting geometry, or pure presence, without visible shape. Often, they will test your ability to recognize them. They may ask you to follow them, hand you an object, or invite you to cross a threshold. If you accept, you are drawn deeper into their design, often into layers of the dream that feel more vivid and real than waking life itself. The ancient mystery schools understood this relationship well. Students were trained to incubate dreams, setting an intention before sleep, and calling upon specific guides to shape the experience. Temples were built as places to sleep for this purpose, their architecture aligned to enhance the clarity of the dream state. The belief was simple but profound. In the dream world, the soul could receive teachings unfiltered by the limitations of the waking mind. This was not superstition, it was a disciplined practice of collaboration between human consciousness and non-physical intelligences. The most skilled dreamers learn to wake up inside these constructed spaces without breaking the dream. This lucid awareness allows them to interact with the architects directly, to ask questions, to explore the environment with purpose. In such states, the dream can shift instantly to reflect the focus of the dreamer. If you ask for healing, you may be led into a place of radiant light, where the energy itself seems to reweave you. If you ask for knowledge, you may be brought to a library, a classroom, or a council of beings who impart information through images, sensations, and sudden downloads of understanding. Not all dream architects are benevolent. Just as in waking life, there are entities with agendas that do not align with your highest good. Some may create scenarios that feed on fear or confusion, looping you into repetitive dream patterns that leave you drained. This is why discernment is crucial. The emotional aftertaste of the dream often reveals the nature of its source. Uplifting dreams, even when challenging, leave you feeling expanded, clearer, or more empowered. Dreams that constrict or deplete you may require energetic cleansing or protection before sleep. When you begin to recognize that some of your dreams are not random but designed, the entire landscape of sleep changes. You stop dismissing them as meaningless stories and start approaching them as classrooms, temples, and arenas for transformation. You become an active participant in the nightly dialogue between your soul and the intelligences that guide it. And slowly, you begin to notice patterns, certain places you return to, certain figures who appear again and again, certain symbols that seem to evolve over time. These are the fingerprints of the architects who have been walking with you, patiently shaping the terrain of your inner worlds so that you can awaken, not just in your dreams, but in your life. The truth is, you are not drifting alone through a chaotic sea of images every night. You are stepping into worlds that have been prepared for you with care, precision, and a depth of understanding that reaches far beyond your current lifetime. The dream architects are already at work, arranging the next scene, building the next lesson, placing the next key in your path. All that remains is for you to notice, and to step through their doorway with the awareness that nothing you encounter there is by accident. Most people think of sleep as a time of peace, of rest, of escape from the noise of the waking world. Yet, hidden in the unseen layers of reality, there are currents and exchanges taking place that few ever become aware of. While you drift into dreams, there are entities and forces that move in the shadows, drawn not to your physical body but to the luminous field of energy that surrounds your consciousness. These are not the guides or helpers spoken of in comforting spiritual tales. These are the harvesters, beings that feed, not on food or water, but on emotion itself. Fear, despair, anger, even moments of sudden shock, to them, these are nourishment. They move quietly, just beyond the range of ordinary perception, slipping into the edges of dreams when your conscious defenses are at their weakest. In this state, they do not need to overpower you. They simply provoke a reaction, setting scenes within your dreamscape that trigger an emotional surge. The nightmare that feels too vivid, the dream that leaves you shaken long after waking, the strange recurring scenarios that seem designed to unsettle you, these can sometimes be signs of their presence. In many traditions, these beings are described as shadows, parasites, or even tricksters. Tibetan teachings warn of hungry spirits that attach to the energy body, drawing vitality from fear and confusion. Middle Eastern folklore tells of night visitors that sit upon the chest, leaving the dreamer drained by morning. In some African spiritual systems, they are known as energy thieves, entities that wander between the worlds seeking unguarded travelers. While the names and appearances differ, the underlying principle remains the same. There are forces that sustain themselves by siphoning the life force and emotional resonance of others. In the dreaming state, the boundaries between you and the non-physical realms are thinner. You are more accessible, your awareness stretched outward into subtle planes, where your presence can be felt by those attuned to such currents. The harvesters operate like skilled fishermen, casting energetic hooks into the waters of the dreamscape. The bait may take the form of a frightening chase, an image of someone you love in danger, or even a sudden, inexplicable sense of dread. Once the reaction is triggered, the energy is released, and they draw it in. For them, it is sustenance. For you, it is depletion. Sometimes, the effect is obvious. You wake after a restless night feeling as though you have not slept at all, your body heavy, your thoughts clouded. Other times, it is subtle, showing up as irritability, anxiety, or a lingering unease you can't quite name. You may dismiss it as stress or bad sleep, never realizing that the exhaustion you feel is not entirely your own. Over time, repeated encounters with such entities can erode the resilience of your energy body, making it easier for them to return. This is why some people experience cycles of recurring nightmares or periods of heightened emotional volatility that seem to appear without reason. It is important to understand that these harvesters are not omnipotent. They thrive in secrecy and depend on your unawareness. Awareness is a kind of shield. The moment you recognize their presence, their hold weakens. Many who have confronted them in lucid dreams report that standing firm, refusing to give in to fear, or even projecting love toward them causes the scene to dissolve. This is because the frequency of love and calm is not a food source they can metabolize. They rely on the lower vibrations of panic and despair, and when those are absent, they cannot feed. The existence of such beings raises uncomfortable questions about the nature of the dream realms. If your consciousness can be approached, provoked, and drained during sleep, then sleep is not as private as you've been led to believe. It is a form of travel, and in travel, you sometimes pass through unsafe territory. This is why ancient cultures placed such emphasis on protective rituals before bed, smudging the sleeping area with smoke, placing certain crystals or metals nearby, speaking prayers or affirmations to strengthen the dream body. These practices were not superstition, they were survival. One of the more disturbing aspects is that harvesters are not always strangers to you. They can be drawn to patterns in your own energy, unresolved trauma, persistent grief, chronic anger. These emotional states act as beacons in the non-physical realms, signaling vulnerability. This does not mean that you are to blame for attracting them, but it does mean that inner work, healing, and emotional regulation can become your most effective defense. The brighter and more stable your energy field, the less appealing you are to such predators. There are also accounts of harvesters using disguises in dreams. They may appear as familiar faces, trusted figures, or even deceased loved ones, weaving dream narratives that pull you into trust before shifting the tone to provoke distress. This blending of comfort and fear is a way of maximizing the emotional yield. The sharper the drop from safety to terror, the greater the energetic surge they can extract. Recognizing this pattern can be unsettling, but it is also liberating. Once you see the design, you are less likely to be ensnared by it. It is worth noting that not all unsettling dream encounters are the work of harvesters. Some are simply the mind processing fears, or genuine challenges set by your higher self for growth. The difference often lies in the aftermath. Growth-oriented dreams may be intense, but they leave you with insight, empowerment, or a sense of resolution. Encounters with harvesters leave you drained, confused, and often emotionally raw, without a clear understanding of why. learning to discern between the two is part of reclaiming sovereignty over your dream life. The darker side of sleep is not something to be feared, but something to be acknowledged. Pretending it does not exist leaves you open to manipulation. Accepting that the dream realms, like the waking world, contain both benevolent and predatory presences allows you to prepare, to protect yourself, and to move through them with greater awareness. You are not powerless in this. The same consciousness that can travel beyond the body can also command its own space, set its own boundaries, and call upon higher forces for protection. The harvesters thrive in the silence of ignorance. Break that silence, and you diminish their power. The next time you drift towards sleep, remember that you are not merely falling into rest, you are crossing into a space where your energy becomes visible in ways the waking world cannot see. Fortify it, guard it, and carry the awareness that you have every right to travel the night free from the hands that would feed on you. In doing so, you take back more than your dreams. You take back the sovereignty of your very being. There are moments in dreams when the air seems to shift, when the colors grow sharper and the atmosphere feels charged with a presence that is more than a product of your mind. In these moments, you may find yourself face to face with someone you have not seen in years, someone you thought you had lost forever. They may look as young and vibrant as you remember them in their best days, or they may radiate a kind of light that you've never seen on Earth. This is not the random invention of a sleeping brain. It is a meeting, and it is as real as any encounter you have while awake. Sleep, with its loosening of the boundaries between the physical and the spiritual, creates a bridge between worlds. On one side is the life you are living now. On the other is the realm where those who have passed, and those who dwell beyond the human realm entirely, can reach you. The reason this is possible lies in the nature of consciousness itself. In waking life, you are tethered to the body and its senses, locked into a steady stream of physical perception. This acts like a filter, allowing you to experience the material world with focus, but muting the signals from other planes of existence. When you sleep, this filter softens. The senses withdraw from the physical, and your awareness naturally expands into the non-physical dimensions, where thought, emotion, and energy take form instantly. In these dimensions, it is as easy for a loved one who has passed to approach you as it is for a friend to walk into the same room you are in. When such a meeting occurs, it is rarely casual. The people who come to you in these moments often do so with a purpose, to reassure you they are safe, to offer guidance about something you are facing, or to complete an unfinished exchange from when they were alive. Sometimes they simply appear to let you feel their presence again, reminding you that the connection you shared has not been severed by death. The emotions in these encounters often feel heightened. A hug may carry an overwhelming sense of peace. A look in the eyes may communicate forgiveness without a single word spoken. These moments can change you, even if you forget them upon waking. The forgetting is one of the most curious and frustrating aspects of this phenomenon. People wake from a deep sleep with only a faint sense that something important happened, a lingering warmth in the chest, the ghost of a conversation they can't quite recall. This amnesia is not a flaw in the process. In many cases, it is intentional. The realms you enter in sleep operate on frequencies that are not fully compatible with the waking mind. Trying to carry the full detail of those encounters into your daytime awareness would overwhelm you or disrupt the delicate balance between your physical and spiritual focus. So, much of what happens is stored not in your conscious memory, but in deeper layers of your being, where it continues to work on you in subtle ways. Beyond loved ones, the dream state is a natural meeting place for higher beings and spiritual teachers. These are not always recognizable in form. Sometimes they appear as radiant humans, other times as beings of pure light, or even as presences that you simply feel rather than see. Their communication often bypasses words entirely. A single glance or touch from such a being can flood you with understanding, heal wounds you didn't know you were carrying, or awaken you to aspects of yourself that had been dormant. In these encounters, time behaves differently. You may feel as though you've spent hours or days in their company, even though only minutes have passed in the physical world. Spiritual teachers often use the dream state to impart lessons that would be difficult to grasp in waking life. In dreams, you are not limited by the same mental constraints, so they can show you truths in symbolic or experiential form. You might find yourself walking through a series of doorways, each leading to a different scene that challenges your assumptions. You might be asked to solve a puzzle, only to realize that the answer is not logical but intuitive. Such lessons are designed to bypass your habitual thinking and reach a deeper part of you that is more closely aligned with your soul's awareness. The reason so many of these encounters go unnoticed or unremembered is that most people enter sleep unconsciously. They drift off thinking of the day's worries, without setting an intention or opening themselves to the possibility of connection. In doing so, they pass through the night unaware of the opportunities around them. But those who approach sleep with awareness, who still the mind before bed, set a clear request for contact, and remain receptive, are far more likely to recall these meetings. Even then, the memory may fade quickly upon waking, unless anchored immediately by writing it down or speaking it aloud. Cultures throughout history have acknowledged this nighttime bridge between worlds. In ancient Greece, dream temples were places where people went specifically to sleep and receive messages from gods or ancestors. In some indigenous traditions, the dream state is considered a sacred meeting ground where the living and the spirit world converse freely. These cultures treated dreams not as private, random events, but as communal and spiritual exchanges that were integral to guidance and healing. The modern habit of dismissing dreams as meaningless noise is a relatively recent departure from this understanding. When you start to recognize that some of your dreams are genuine communications, everything changes. A sudden appearance from a departed friend may no longer feel like an odd trick of memory, but as a deliberate visit. A vivid dream in which a stranger gives you advice may be understood as a teaching from a guide you have never seen in waking life. Even a fleeting image, a hand on your shoulder, a voice calling your name, can take on new weight when you accept that these are real points of contact. Sometimes, the messages are not for you alone. You may be shown something that a loved one needs to hear, or be given insight that could help someone close to you. Acting on these messages can deepen your trust in the connection between worlds. Other times, the message is simply a gift of reassurance, a reminder that you are not alone, that help is always closer than you think, even when you cannot see it. Whether or not you remember these encounters in detail, they leave traces. You may wake with a sense of peace that carries you through the day. You may find clarity about a decision that had been troubling you. You may feel a sudden lifting of grief, as though a weight has been taken from your chest. These shifts are the quiet proof that the meeting was real, and that what was given to you in sleep is still working in your life. Every night, the opportunity is there. The veil thins, the boundaries dissolve, and those who have walked ahead of you, along with those who watch over you from realms beyond sight, can step closer. Whether you remember their faces or not, they are speaking, guiding, and walking with you in ways that defy the limits of the waking world. The only question is whether you will close your eyes and drift through the night unaware, or step intentionally into the space where messages from the other side are already waiting for you. There are dreams that feel nothing like dreams at all. You wake from them disoriented, as though you've been living an entirely different life for hours, days, or even years, and the return to your own bed feels abrupt, almost like being pulled out of deep water. The streets you walked, the rooms you lived in, the faces you loved, all of it seems so real that it is impossible to dismiss as fantasy. And yet, when you open your eyes, none of it exists in this world. These are not ordinary dreams. They are windows, brief openings in the fabric of reality, through which your consciousness catches glimpses of parallel incarnations and alternate timelines. The concept is not as strange as it sounds. Many spiritual traditions have hinted at the idea that your soul is not bound to a single linear track of time. Instead, it exists across multiple expressions, exploring variations of reality simultaneously. While you live this life here, there are other versions of you walking other roads, some remarkably similar, others wildly different. Most of the time, the barriers between these lives are solid, keeping each reality distinct. But in the vulnerable, expansive state of dreaming, the walls thin, and sometimes they break. When bleed-through occurs, you may find yourself stepping seamlessly into another self's existence. You feel their emotions as if they were your own, because they are. You speak with their voice, interact with people they know, navigate challenges they face. It does not feel like watching a movie or reading a story. It feels like living. And in a sense, it is, your consciousness temporarily merging with another version of itself in a different timeline. The details can be startling. You might recognize a friend or family member from this life, but they behave differently, have different histories, or are bound to you in unfamiliar ways. You might find yourself in a city you've never visited, yet instinctively know its streets, its shortcuts, its hidden corners. The emotional weight of these experiences can linger long after you wake. Some people report feelings of longing for the relationships they touched in those dreams, as if part of their heart remains in that other place. Others awaken unsettled by the challenges they faced there, carrying the stress of events that never occurred in this reality. From a spiritual perspective, these bleed-throughs are not accidents. They often occur during moments of transition or deep questioning in your waking life. They can serve as reminders that your identity is far greater than the narrow version you see in the mirror. In one timeline, you might be facing the consequences of a choice you never made here, showing you what might have been had you taken another path. In another, you might be living in circumstances that offer skills or insights you can carry back into this life. It is as if the soul allows these brief exchanges of information to accelerate growth, sharing resources across its many expressions. Yet, as enlightening as this can be, it is also destabilizing. Human minds are conditioned to believe in a single, continuous story, one birth, one life, one death. To suddenly experience proof, however fleeting, that this is not the full picture can shake the foundation of your reality. It challenges the idea of identity itself. If there are countless versions of you, each as real as the one reading these words, then who are you really? Which life is the true one? The answer is both liberating and unsettling. They all are. Each is an authentic thread in the tapestry of your soul, none more valid than the others. This destabilization can also manifest physically and emotionally. Some people wake from parallel life dreams feeling unmoored, as though the gravity of this world has weakened. Others feel a deep sadness, not because their current life is lacking, but because they have tasted something beautiful in another reality and cannot return to it at will. There are even those who feel a kind of phantom memory, missing skills, relationships, or entire histories that belong to another self. The bleed-through can leave traces in the psyche that blur the boundaries between lives. Ancient mystics warned of the disorientation such crossings could bring. They spoke of travelers who lost themselves in other realities, unable to anchor fully in their own. Modern reports echo this, with people describing periods of confusion where they mix details from different lives in conversation or memory. It is not common, but it is possible, and it is why grounding practices are essential for those who regularly experience such dreams. Without them, you risk becoming scattered across too many selves, never fully present in any. The benefit, however, can be profound. Parallel life bleed-throughs can expand your understanding of possibility. They can dissolve the illusion of limitation, showing you that the self is endlessly adaptable and creative. They can also reveal deep soul patterns, traits, fears, and strengths that appear across multiple lives, hinting at the themes your soul has been working through for eons. If you pay attention, you may notice the same lessons appearing in different forms, both here and there, as if your soul is approaching the same truth from many angles at once. One of the most striking outcomes of these experiences is the subtle way they can shift your waking life. You might wake from a bleed-through with a new perspective on a problem, because in another life, you have already solved it. You might feel drawn to a certain art form, language, or place without knowing why, only to later discover its significance in one of these dreams. It is as though the walls between timelines do not just let images pass, they let qualities, talents, and knowing flow between selves. Of course, not all parallel lives are idyllic. Some bleed-throughs reveal timelines of hardship, conflict, or loss. In these cases, the emotional impact can be heavier, even frightening. Yet, even here, there is value. Witnessing those paths can instill gratitude for the blessings of this life, or inspire changes that prevent similar patterns from unfolding here. It is also possible that by observing and integrating the lessons of a more difficult parallel incarnation, you help that other self as well. The exchange goes both ways. In the end, parallel life bleed-through is a reminder that your consciousness is not confined to the small stage of this reality. You are part of something vast, a network of selves spread across dimensions and timelines, each carrying a piece of the whole. The dreams that pull you into those other worlds are not just curiosities. They are invitations to remember, to see yourself not as a single story, but as an entire library of lives, each one informing the next. And while the return to this life may sometimes feel like waking from a love you can't touch or a loss you can't explain, the truth is that nothing is truly separate. All those selves, all those worlds, exist within you, and their echoes shape the person you are becoming right now. There are those who enter sleep not as an escape from the demands of the day, but as a deliberate return to the inner temple where their deepest training takes place. For these souls, the night is not simply a time of rest, it is a classroom, a testing ground, and a sanctuary of higher learning. While the majority drift into dreams unaware, advanced souls step into sleep with the same readiness a devoted student brings to a sacred initiation. They know that in the dimensions beyond waking reality, they will be met by teachers who will shape the night into a series of experiences meant to refine, strengthen, and accelerate their spiritual evolution. The initiations that occur in sleep are not random dreams stitched together by the subconscious. They are precise and purposeful, designed to challenge the soul at the exact point of its current growth. Sometimes these lessons come in symbolic form, a series of locked doors, each requiring a different kind of key, representing qualities the soul must cultivate before moving forward. Other times they are visceral and demanding, placing the dreamer in situations that stir fear, doubt, or temptation, testing their ability to remain centered and aligned even in the most disorienting circumstances. These tests are not punishments, they are opportunities to prove to yourself and to the realms that guide you that you are ready for the next stage of your journey. In these states, the dream world often feels more vivid and solid than waking life. The air may hum with energy, the colors more saturated than anything in the physical world. The people you meet may look ordinary, yet there is something in their gaze, a depth, a clarity, that makes it clear they are not casual dream characters. These are instructors, guardians, and initiators who have taken on forms that will be most familiar and accessible to you. They may speak in words, but often their true communication comes through a transfer of knowing, a sudden flood of understanding that bypasses the limits of language entirely. For the advanced soul, these lessons can span an entire night, unfolding like a series of chapters in a book. One segment may require you to navigate an unfamiliar terrain, mountains, forests, or labyrinths, symbolic of the inner landscapes you must master. Another might place you in direct interaction with others, testing your ability to respond with compassion, patience, or courage under pressure. And sometimes, the lesson is to simply hold your ground, to remain steady in the face of energies that try to destabilize you. Every choice you make in these dream scenarios echoes beyond the dream itself, shaping the path of your evolution. Some initiations are deeply personal, tailored to the specific karmic threads or soul contracts you are working through in this lifetime. You may be shown past mistakes, not to shame you, but to give you the chance to choose differently and rewrite the energetic pattern. You may encounter versions of yourself from other lifetimes, learning from their successes and failures. In these moments, the boundaries between past, present, and future dissolve, and you become aware of the larger arc of your soul's journey. Others are more universal, part of a shared curriculum for those who have reached certain stages of spiritual readiness. Many report undergoing training in energy work, learning to direct and shape light, sound, or intention in ways that can be used for healing or transformation. Some are taught how to navigate specific layers of the astral plane, moving through them with precision so they can assist others who are lost or in need. In rare cases, initiates are even invited into councils or gatherings of advanced beings, where they witness decisions and exchanges that affect the evolution of whole groups of souls. What makes these initiations so powerful is that they occur outside the resistance of the waking mind. In daily life, growth can be slow because the personality clings to its fears, habits, and doubts. But in the dream state, the soul moves freely, unburdened by those constraints. Here, you can be stretched beyond what you thought you could endure, placed in situations that would be impossible to simulate in waking life, and brought face to face with aspects of yourself you might otherwise spend years avoiding. This is why those who undergo such training often wake with a sense of having lived an entire lifetime in a single night. The impact of these nights lingers. Even if the details of the dream fade upon waking, the lessons remain embedded in your energy field. You may find yourself responding differently to situations in your daily life, with greater patience, strength, or clarity. You may suddenly have insights into problems that had once seemed unsolvable. You may feel a subtle but undeniable expansion in your awareness, as if a part of you has stepped forward that had been waiting quietly in the background. This is the mark of a true initiation, not just the experience itself, but the transformation it leaves behind. While anyone can be invited into such training, advanced souls tend to access it more often because they have learned to approach sleep with conscious intention. They prepare themselves before bed, quieting the mind, setting a clear request, and aligning their energy so they can enter the night ready to learn. This readiness is felt by the teachers and guides who orchestrate the lessons. Just as a mentor will not hand a dangerous tool to an unprepared apprentice, these higher beings will only offer the deeper initiations when they sense that the soul is capable of using what is given. There is also an element of choice. Even in the dream state, you can refuse a lesson. You can turn away from a challenge, wake yourself up, or distract yourself with other dream scenarios. But each time you choose to stay, to face what is placed before you, you strengthen your readiness for the next step. The more you engage, the more the lessons deepen. Over time, your nights can become a continuous thread of growth, each dream building upon the last, creating a private and profound education in the unseen realms. Some who have undergone years of such training speak of reaching a point where the lessons shift from individual growth to service. Once you have proven your mastery over certain inner challenges, you may be called upon to assist others in their dream states. You may find yourself guiding a confused dreamer to safety, holding space for someone undergoing their own initiation, or working alongside other advanced souls in coordinated missions that unfold entirely in the dream realm. This is one of the highest forms of sleep initiation, when your own growth becomes a tool for the growth of others. In the end, sleep initiations are both a gift and a responsibility. They are a recognition that you are ready to walk through doors that remain invisible to most. They are an acceleration of your path, a way to compress years of growth into nights of focused learning. But they also carry an unspoken agreement that what you gain in the dream must be lived in the waking world. The courage you summon in the night must be carried into your day. The clarity you receive in the higher realms must shape the choices you make in the physical. Every night, the invitation is there, waiting. The temple doors open, the teachers take their places, and the first test begins the moment you close your eyes. The question is whether you will enter sleep passively, surrendering to random dreams, or whether you will step into the night as an initiate, ready to be shaped by the lessons that can only be taught beyond the edge of waking. For those who choose the latter, sleep becomes not an escape, but a path, one that leads ever deeper into the truth of who you are and what you came here to become. There are moments in sleep when you touch something so vast, so luminous, that words could never contain it. You may wake with your heart racing, not from fear but from the sheer immensity of what you just witnessed. There is a sense of having been in a place that holds the answers to questions you didn't even know you had, a place where the structure of reality itself is laid bare. And yet, the harder you try to grasp the details, the faster they dissolve, slipping through your mind like water through cupped hands. What remains is only the residue, a feeling, a knowing, a shift deep inside you. This is the strange and frustrating truth of forbidden knowledge retrieved during sleep. It is not always meant to be brought back intact. Many have experienced this without understanding what it was. A dream that feels unlike any other, sharper, clearer, weightier, will jolt you into waking consciousness, and for a fleeting second you can remember every detail. Then, as your awareness adjusts to the light of the waking world, the memory collapses. You strain to hold on to it, but it is as though some unseen force is pulling it away. This is not simple forgetfulness. It is a deliberate mechanism, a veil drawn over certain truths that cannot yet be carried fully into your conscious mind. The question is, why? If the information exists, and if you have already accessed it in the depth of sleep, why is it withheld from you in waking life? One reason is protection. Some knowledge has the power to dismantle the entire structure of your current beliefs, and with it, the framework of your life. To receive it before you are prepared would be like handing the blueprints of a city to someone who has never built a single wall. They would not know where to begin, and the result could be chaos. Your higher self, your guides, or the intelligence of the universe itself may allow you to visit the place where such knowledge is stored, but they will limit how much you can carry back until you have the capacity to integrate it. There is also the question of energetic safety. Certain truths are not just ideas, they are vibrations, living currents of energy that can alter the way you interact with the world. To absorb them prematurely could draw unwanted attention from forces that are invested in keeping such knowledge hidden. In many traditions, the deeper mysteries were always revealed in stages, with initiates moving step by step into greater awareness. The dream state can serve as such an initiation, giving you glimpses of what lies ahead, but ensuring you only bring back what you can use without destabilizing yourself or attracting interference. Some people describe these dream encounters as being in a classroom, a temple, or a library, where they are shown images, symbols, or sequences of events that feel monumental. While there, the meaning is crystal clear. They understand everything being presented, but upon waking, the memory becomes fragmented, leaving only scattered impressions. The mind fights to reconstruct the sequence, but it is like trying to remember the details of a song after only hearing its echo. What remains may seem small, yet it often carries a spark of transformation. Over days or weeks, it works its way into your thoughts, subtly influencing choices and perceptions, until you find yourself living differently, without knowing exactly why. There are also cases where recall is intentionally blocked to preserve the purity of an unfolding process. Imagine being given the answer to a mystery you are meant to solve through experience. If you woke with that answer in full, the journey itself would be lost, and with it, the growth that comes from seeking. The withheld memory is not a punishment, but a way of keeping you aligned with the lessons you came here to live. Sometimes the knowledge itself is not the point, the path to reaching it is. There is another reason some dream truths cannot be brought back. The language of the waking mind is too limited. What you experience in certain states of sleep is not conveyed in words or images, but in pure understanding, in direct transmission. When you wake, the linear, language-bound mind cannot fully translate it. You might retain fragments as metaphors, strange dream symbols, or feelings that defy explanation. You may find yourself saying, "I can't explain it, but I just know." That just knowing is the echo of something far larger than any sentence could hold. Yet, the veil is not impenetrable. With practice, you can train yourself to retain more of what you encounter. Setting the intention before sleep, keeping a journal by your bed, and writing down anything you remember immediately upon waking can help. Even if the details seem incoherent, recording them preserves the energetic link to the experience, making it easier to recall more in the future. Meditation upon waking, before the noise of the day takes over, can sometimes pull back fragments that would otherwise vanish. And in some cases, the knowledge will return to you not as a memory, but as a sudden realization in the middle of your day, as if it has been quietly waiting for the right moment to surface. Those who have experienced forbidden knowledge retrieval often report a strange side effect, an unshakable sense of having been changed. Even without the full memory, they feel expanded, as if their inner landscape has grown. They may notice new clarity in areas of life that were once confusing, or a sudden disinterest in things that used to hold great importance. This is because the essence of what they touched remains within them, even if the conscious mind cannot articulate it. The seed has been planted, and it will grow in its own time. There is also the humbling awareness that some of what you glimpse in these dream states may never be fully brought into waking life. The human mind, for all its brilliance, is not built to hold the entirety of what the soul can access. Some truths exist in a state beyond comprehension, and their value lies not in explaining them, but in allowing them to work on you from within. Just as a child cannot yet grasp the complexities of an adult world, so too must certain layers of truth remain out of reach until you have expanded enough to hold them. This is why patience is vital. If you wake from a dream knowing you have touched something immense but cannot remember it, resist the urge to force it. Trust that it has reached you in the way it was meant to, and that when the time is right, more will be revealed. The very act of seeking is part of the unfolding. The path to forbidden knowledge is not a single night's journey but a lifelong unfolding of readiness, trust, and transformation. And perhaps the greatest secret of all is this: even when the memory is gone, the knowing remains, quietly shaping you from the inside out, preparing you for the day when the veil will finally lift. When you drift into the dream realms, you are not simply wandering in a private, sealed-off theater of the mind. You are stepping into shared territories, vast layers of reality where countless other forms of consciousness move, interact, and leave their imprint. This is the great wonder of night travel, but also its most significant danger. Many imagine that nothing can touch them in sleep, that dreams are just illusions without consequence. Yet, the truth is that the moment your awareness loosens from the body, you are moving through a spectrum of energies and beings, some harmonious, some disruptive, and some that actively seek to entangle you. Without preparation, without a shield of awareness, it is possible to return from these journeys carrying more than you left with. One of the most immediate risks is disorientation. In the physical world, you navigate with a consistent set of laws: gravity pulls, time flows in one direction, distance is fixed. In the astral and subtle realms, those laws bend and dissolve. Landscapes shift under your feet. You may leap from one scene to another without warning, or find yourself caught in loops where events repeat endlessly. Without training, it can be easy to lose your sense of self in this fluidity. Some wake from these nights feeling scattered, unable to focus, with a lingering sense of confusion that colors the entire day. This disorientation is not just mental, it can also affect the subtle body, leaving your energy field frayed or ungrounded, like a traveler who has returned home but left parts of their luggage behind in foreign lands. There are also encounters that carry more direct risk. Just as there are benevolent beings in the dream realms, there are entities whose intentions are not aligned with your highest good. Some feed on fear, drawing it out of you by creating scenarios designed to provoke anxiety or panic. Others are opportunistic, seeking to attach themselves to your energy field in order to draw from your vitality. These encounters can range from unsettling to deeply draining, and while they cannot harm the eternal part of you, they can leave your emotional and physical state weakened. Many who wake from nightmares without understanding their origin are in fact emerging from such encounters, mistaking them for self-generated dreams when they were, in reality, direct interactions with lower vibrational presences. Another layer of danger comes in the form of karmic entanglements. The choices you make in the dream realms carry weight, just as they do in waking life. When you interact with another consciousness, whether a living person, a soul between lives, or a non-human intelligence, you are engaging in an energetic exchange. Acts of kindness, compassion, or integrity strengthen your field and open doors to higher realms. Acts born of fear, deception, or harm can weave threads that pull you back into repeated patterns with the beings involved. Some karmic connections formed in the dream state can even spill into waking life, drawing you into relationships or situations you would not have encountered otherwise. This is why discernment and intention are so vital when navigating these spaces. Prolonged or repeated unprotected night travel can also erode the clarity of your waking awareness. Just as an overworked body begins to break down physically, an overextended consciousness can become scattered, fatigued, or even depressed. Sleep is meant to restore, to recharge, and while conscious exploration of the dream realms can be profoundly enriching, it requires balance. Without grounding practices, you may find that you wake feeling as though you have not rested at all, burdened by the residue of the places you have visited. In severe cases, this can lead to difficulty distinguishing between dream imagery and waking reality, blurring the edges of perception in ways that disrupt daily life. For those who are particularly sensitive, the danger is not just in what you encounter, but in what follows you back. Energy clings. Just as you can carry the scent of smoke after walking through a fire, you can carry the energetic imprint of the dream realms back into your physical life. This might manifest as persistent moods with no apparent cause, sudden changes in thought patterns, or unexplained physical sensations. In the most extreme cases, it can feel as though something foreign has lodged itself in your energy field, subtly influencing your emotions or decisions. Recognizing and clearing these attachments is a skill that must be cultivated, just as a seasoned traveler learns to cleanse themselves of the dust of the road before stepping back into their home. There is also the subtle, long-term risk of dependency. The dream realms can be intoxicating, vast worlds where you can fly, create, or meet with beings of extraordinary presence. For some, this becomes more appealing than the grounded work of living in the physical. They may begin to withdraw from waking life, using sleep as an escape rather than a tool for growth. This imbalance can stall spiritual development, as the lessons of the dream are meant to be integrated into the waking self, not hoarded in a separate compartment of experience. Protecting yourself in night travel is not about fear, but about respect for the reality you are entering. Just as you would not walk into a wild forest without preparation, it is unwise to enter the subtle realms without energetic safeguards. Simple practices, such as setting a clear intention before sleep, visualizing a protective light around your body, and grounding your energy upon waking, can dramatically reduce the risks. Maintaining emotional balance in waking life is equally important, as the vibration you carry when you fall asleep will determine which layers of the dream realms you naturally gravitate toward. It is also important to cultivate discernment, the ability to tell the difference between a guide and a deceiver, between a lesson and a trap. Not every figure who offers you wisdom in the dream is what they appear to be. Some may present themselves as benevolent in order to gain your trust, while others may disguise themselves entirely. The key is to tune into the feeling beneath the appearance. Genuine higher presences radiate an unmistakable sense of peace, clarity, and expansion, while lower ones often leave you feeling contracted, confused, or subtly unsettled, even if their words seem kind. Ultimately, the dangers of night travel are not meant to discourage you from exploring these realms, but to remind you that they are real. They operate under laws that are different from the physical world, but no less consequential. Entering them with awareness, preparation, and respect allows you to access their wonders while minimizing the risks. Ignoring their reality, drifting through them without intention, leaves you open to influences you may not even realize are shaping you. Every night, the door to these realms opens, whether you are ready or not. You can step through it with the wide-eyed unpreparedness of a tourist in a strange land, or with the steady awareness of a traveler who knows the terrain, the customs, and the potential hazards. The choice will shape not only the experiences you have while sleeping, but the quality of your waking life. For while the body may rest, the soul never stops moving, and where it goes, and what it brings back, is entirely in your hands. When you understand that sleep is not merely rest but a crossing into other realms, you begin to see the importance of preparation. Just as a sailor would never set out to sea without checking the weather, securing the vessel, and charting the course, you should not drift into the vast and varied landscapes of the dream realms without first anchoring yourself. The consciousness, when unmoored, can wander into places both enlightening and treacherous, and while you may return physically unharmed, your energy and clarity can suffer if you are not prepared. Anchoring is the practice of grounding yourself so that no matter where you travel at night, you wake in the morning whole, safe, and with the gift of clear recall. Anchoring begins before you even lie down. The environment in which you sleep acts as the harbor for your nightly voyage. Your body and energy field absorb the vibrations of your surroundings, so the space must be clear. This is why so many ancient traditions placed emphasis on cleansing the sleeping area. Burning herbs such as sage, cedar, or frankincense before bed clears stagnant or intrusive energies. For those sensitive to scent, simply opening a window for fresh air can reset the frequency of the room. The key is to ensure that nothing in the space carries the emotional residue of the day or the energy of others who may have passed through it. Once the environment is prepared, attention must turn inward. Your mind, left cluttered, will carry its chaos into the dreamscape, making you more vulnerable to wandering into distorted or draining realms. Anchoring yourself mentally can be as simple as sitting in stillness for a few minutes before sleep, focusing on the breath, and allowing the chatter of the day to settle. Some people find it helpful to visualize their thoughts as leaves on a stream, watching them drift away one by one until the water is calm. The aim is not to erase thought, but to soften its grip, creating space for intention to take root. Setting a clear intention is perhaps the most powerful anchor you can create. The subconscious responds strongly to direction, and the dream realms are far more navigable when you approach them with purpose. Before sleep, state your intention out loud or silently in your mind. It might be as simple as, "I travel only where I am safe and guided," or as focused as, "I will recall what I learned tonight with clarity." When spoken with conviction, this intention becomes a thread that pulls you back to yourself, no matter how far you wander. Physical anchoring can also assist in stabilizing the traveler. Certain objects have been used for centuries to strengthen the energy body during sleep. Crystals, such as black tourmaline or smoky quartz, placed under the pillow or beside the bed, create a protective field that shields against intrusive energies. A small bowl of salt by the bedside is another ancient practice. Salt is a natural energy purifier, and its presence helps maintain a balanced environment. Some traditions recommend placing a small piece of iron or a silver coin beneath the bed to act as an energetic weight, keeping the spirit tethered to the body. The body itself must also be prepared. Heavy, dense meals or intoxicants before sleep can weigh down the energy body or cloud awareness, making it harder to travel consciously or remember where you've been. Light, clean nourishment and hydration throughout the day create a clearer channel for the movement of consciousness at night. Simple stretches or gentle movements before bed can release physical tension that might otherwise hold the energy field in a contracted state, limiting its range. One of the most overlooked techniques for anchoring is the practice of calling in protection. This is not about fear, but about respect for the vastness of what lies beyond the waking world. You can call upon guides, ancestors, or higher aspects of yourself to walk with you during the night. This can be done through prayer, visualization, or simply speaking from the heart. Imagine yourself surrounded by a sphere of golden light, expanding from your heart until it encompasses your entire being. See this sphere as impermeable to anything not aligned with your highest good. This visualization not only protects, but also reinforces the stability of your energy body. Anchoring also involves creating a pathway for return. If you want to bring back clear recall, you must build a bridge between the dreaming and waking states. This can be done by keeping a dream journal within reach and committing to writing down whatever you remember the moment you wake, even if it is only a single image, word, or feeling. This practice signals to your subconscious that your dream experiences matter, and over time it strengthens the flow of memory between realms. You can also set the intention before sleep. I will remember and record my journeys upon waking. Another powerful ritual for anchoring is to establish a home point in your dreamscape. This is a location you visualize before sleep, a safe, familiar place that you return to at the beginning or end of every journey. It might be a meadow, a temple, a house by the sea, or any place that evokes peace and security. By creating and reinforcing this inner space, you give your consciousness a place to orient itself if the dreamscape becomes chaotic or overwhelming. This practice not only aids in recall but also serves as an emergency refuge if you encounter unsettling experiences. It is important to note that anchoring does not mean limiting where you can go or what you can experience. It is not about shutting yourself off from the richness of the dream realms. Instead, it ensures that whatever you encounter, you remain tethered to your core self, able to explore without losing your way, able to return without feeling scattered or drained. It gives you the freedom to travel further precisely because you know you can always come back whole. Finally, anchoring is a discipline. Like any spiritual practice, it deepens with consistency. The more you prepare your space, set your intentions, and protect your energy before sleep, the more naturally it will happen. Over time, you may find that your dreams become more vivid, your recall sharper, and your sense of safety and stability unshakable. You will know when the anchors are strong because you will wake from even the most extraordinary journeys feeling not just rested, but empowered, as though you have brought something back with you that is more than memory. It is the subtle strength of having gone far, seen much, and yet returned to yourself completely, with both feet planted firmly in the world you call home. The true value of the journeys you take in the night is not measured only by what you see or experience while you are there, but by what you carry back into the daylight. The dream realms, the astral pathways, the meetings with teachers and loved ones, all of these are gifts, but they are not meant to remain locked away in the closed chamber of sleep. Their purpose is to shape you here, in the physical world, where the choices you make ripple outward in ways that cannot happen in the subtler dimensions. Without integration, even the most profound visions can fade into nothing more than strange memories. With integration, they become catalysts for deep transformation, shifting the way you live, think, and respond to the world around you. The process begins the moment you wake. Most people rise and rush into their day, letting the delicate threads of the night dissolve before they can even be grasped. But for those who understand the power of integration, waking is a slow, intentional act. You linger in that in-between state where the sensations of the dream still hang in the air. You gather them before they vanish: images, emotions, fragments of conversations, even the feeling in your body. These are the keys to unlocking the deeper meaning of what happened while you slept. Keeping a dream journal by your bed is not just a suggestion, but a discipline. Writing down even the smallest details signals to your deeper self that you value the connection between the worlds, and in time, it will offer you more. But integration is not only about memory, it is about translation, taking the language of the night and decoding it into action in the day. Dreams and astral experiences often communicate through symbol and sensation. A crumbling bridge may not literally mean a bridge, but it may point to a fragile connection in your life that needs attention. A conversation with a radiant being may not be about their words alone, but about the frequency they carried, an energy you can now call upon in moments of stress. To integrate, you must ask, what in my waking life reflects this? Where is the echo of this dream playing out in the physical? And most importantly, what can I do differently now that I have seen this truth? Sometimes integration requires more than simple interpretation. Encounters in the night can bring up emotions you thought you had buried: grief, fear, longing, or even joy so intense it leaves you unsettled. These emotions are not meant to be dismissed, but to be honored and processed. If you meet a loved one who has passed, the lingering ache you feel upon waking is an invitation to let that love guide your choices. If you face a nightmare that exposes a deep fear, the wakeful hours are your chance to meet that fear directly, to take steps toward the courage that was tested in the dream. Bringing the lessons of the night into the day also means embodying the qualities you practice in those realms. If in your sleep you stood your ground against a shadow that tried to overpower you, you are being shown your own strength. Carry that strength into your waking challenges. If in the dream you acted with compassion towards someone who had wronged you, then look for the opportunity to extend that compassion in your daily interactions. The dream is the rehearsal. Life is the performance. Integration also involves tending to your energy in both worlds. The dream realms can shift your vibration in ways that require grounding. Upon waking, take a few moments to reconnect to your body. Stretch, breathe deeply, touch the earth if possible. This seals the experiences of the night into your physical form, preventing them from floating away like mist. At the same time, it helps you release any lingering residue that does not belong in your waking life. Not every sensation or image needs to be carried forward. Discernment is part of integration. You keep what nourishes you and release what does not. The more you integrate, the more intentional your night journeys become. You begin to see a feedback loop. The choices you make during the day shape the quality of your sleep, and the experiences you have in sleep shape the choices you make during the day. This is where transformation accelerates. Sleep is no longer a place you visit passively. It becomes a conscious tool, a space where you can explore, learn, and return with treasures that change you at the core. You stop drawing a hard line between the two states of being. Wakefulness and sleep become two sides of the same path, each feeding and refining the other. For some, this integration leads to the realization that the skills learned in the night are not confined to sleep at all. You may find yourself slipping into the same heightened awareness during waking meditation, or catching glimpses of the astral layers while fully conscious. Your intuition may sharpen, your dreams may begin to bleed into waking symbols, and synchronicities may follow you through the day, as if the dream world is reaching across the veil to guide you. This is a sign that you are no longer compartmentalizing your states of consciousness, but allowing them to work together as one continuous stream. The deepest integration is not in what you remember or record, but in who you become. Over time, the repeated exposure to wisdom, challenge, and beauty in the night realms changes your way of being. You may become calmer in crisis, more compassionate with others, more attuned to the subtle energies in every situation. You may find that fear has less hold on you, because you have faced it in 1,000 forms while the world slept. You may carry a quiet certainty that you are guided, connected, and part of something vast and luminous beyond the limits of this life. To live this way requires devotion. It means treating sleep as sacred, preparing for it with the same care you would bring to a ritual or ceremony. It means honoring what you receive there, by letting it shape your choices when the sun rises. And it means understanding that the dream realms are not separate from life. They are part of the same unfolding journey, as real and as important as the hours you spend awake. When you embrace waking integration, you reclaim the third of your life that is so often wasted in unconsciousness. You turn it into a source of insight, healing, and transformation. You become not just a dreamer, but a bridge between worlds, one who travels at night and returns with treasures that make the daylight richer, wiser, and more alive. And in doing so, you realize the truth that has always been waiting for you, that sleep is not an escape from life, but a doorway into living it more fully than you ever imagined.